The message arrived while I was changing Mrs. Peterson's IV. "You need to see this," read Deborah's text, followed by a link. I ignored it, focusing on my patient's comfort, but the phone kept buzzing in my pocket like an angry hornet. "My name is Vivienne, and until yesterday, I was the head nurse at St. Michael's Hospital. 10 years of dedicated service, countless lives touched, and a reputation I'd built from scratch after losing my husband Brody. All of it shattered by a single social media post. "You're awfully quiet today," Mrs. Peterson said, her weathered hand touching mine. "Everything all right, dear?" I forced a smile. Just one of those days. I checked her vitals one last time before heading to the break room, where Deborah was waiting with coffee and a grim expression. "Have you seen it?" she asked. I pulled out my phone, clicked the link, and felt my world tilt sideways. The post was everywhere: Facebook, Twitter, local community forums, anonymous accounts sharing detailed allegations about me abusing my children, Kirk and Aurora. Stories of neglect, of drinking problems I never had, of violent outbursts that never happened. "This is insane," I whispered, scrolling through hundreds of comments. People I'd known for years were sharing it, adding their own speculations. "I don't understand. Kirk and Aurora are my whole world. How could anyone—" The break room door swung open. "Vivienne?" It was Dr. Marshall, his face ashen. "We need to talk." Deborah squeezed my shoulder as I followed him to his office. The walk felt like a death march. "I'm sorry," he said, sliding a letter across his desk. "With these allegations, we can't risk—" "They're lies." I stood up so fast my chair toppled backward. "I'm a widow raising 2 kids alone. I work double shifts to give them everything. Ask anyone here. I've never missed a day, never made a mistake. It's not about your performance. The board is concerned about liability. Until this is cleared up, we have to terminate your employment." I grabbed the edge of his desk to steady myself. "My children need health insurance, their medications." "I'm truly sorry, Vivienne. Hospital policy is clear." That evening, I sat in my car outside Kirk's school, watching other parents collect their children. Normal people living normal lives. My phone kept lighting up with messages from concerned friends asking if the rumors were true. Kirk's face lit up when he saw me. At 10, he was already so much like his father. Same gentle eyes, same quiet strength. "Mom, you're early." "Thought we'd pick up Aurora together, maybe grab some ice cream." He buckled his seatbelt, chattering about his day. I tried to focus on his words instead of the whispers I'd heard in the school parking lot, the way other parents pulled their children closer as we passed. At Aurora's elementary school, my 8-year-old princess was waiting with her teacher, Mrs. Collins. The look Mrs. Collins gave me made my stomach turn. "Mommy!" Aurora ran to me, backpack bouncing. "I got an A on my science project." I hugged her tight, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo. "That's wonderful, baby." At the ice cream parlor, I watched them devour their sundaes, chocolate smeared on their faces. My phone buzzed again, another message, this time from an unknown number. "How dare you show your face in public? Everyone knows what you did." "Mom!" Kirk's voice snapped me back. "You're crying." I touched my cheek, surprised to find it wet. "Just happy tears, sweetheart. I'm so proud of both of you." That night, after tucking them in, I sat at my kitchen table with Deborah, papers spread everywhere. Bank statements, savings accounts, emergency funds. The numbers didn't add up. "You can stay with me while this blows over," Deborah offered. I shook my head. "I need to fight this. Someone is trying to destroy me, and I think I know who." "Who would do this to you?" I pulled up a familiar Facebook profile on my phone. My sister Melanie's page. Her latest post was a vague message about karma finally catching up to certain people. "Family," I said bitterly, "is supposed to be the one thing you can count on. But sometimes they're the ones who hurt you most." Deborah leaned forward. "What are you going to do?" I looked at the photos on my wall. Brody and me on our wedding day, Kirk's first steps, Aurora's dance recital. Everything I'd built, Everything I'd protected since Brody's death was under attack. I'm going to find out why my sister wants to destroy me, I said, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. And then I'm going to make sure she never hurts my family again. The clock struck midnight as Deborah left, promising to help however she could. In the quiet house, I could hear Kirk's soft snoring from upstairs. Tomorrow, I'd have to tell them Mommy wouldn't be going to work anymore. Tomorrow, I'd have to start fighting back. But tonight, I allowed myself one moment of weakness, one silent scream into my pillow, before wiping my eyes and starting to plan. Melanie had no idea what she'd started, or who she was really dealing with. The coffee shop where Melanie worked was busy when I walked in, my heart pounding against my ribs. She stood behind the counter, her perfectly styled hair and designer clothes a stark contrast to my wrinkled scrubs from yesterday, the last uniform I'd probably wear for a while. "Welcome to—" Her greeting died when she saw me. "Oh, what are you doing here?" "We need to talk." "I'm working." She turned to make someone's latte, her shoulders tense. "Fine, I'll wait." I sat at the counter, directly in her line of sight. 2 hours, 3 cups of coffee, and dozens of dirty looks from her later. Her shift ended. "Stop stalking me," she snapped, untying her apron. I followed her into the back alley behind the shop. "Stalking? That's rich coming from someone who's been spreading lies about me online." "I don't know what you're talking about." But her hand trembled as she lit a cigarette. "Drop the act, Mel. I lost my job. Social services is investigating me. My kids are going to suffer because of what you did." She blew smoke in my direction. "Maybe you should have thought about that before." "Before what?" "Before you took everything." She threw her cigarette down. "You always were Mom's favorite, the perfect daughter, the successful nurse, the loving mother. Even after Brody died, you somehow kept it all together. Do you know how sick I am of hearing about Saint Vivienne? That's what this is about. Jealousy." A bitter laugh escaped her. "You have no idea what it's like living in your shadow. Mom never shut up about you, even after you stopped talking to her. Why can't you be more like your sister? Vivienne would have handled this better. So you tried to destroy my life, my children's lives. They're fine. They have you, don't they? Perfect mom, perfect life." I grabbed her arm as she tried to walk past me. "Take it back. Tell everyone you lied." "Or what?" She jerked away. "You'll hit me? Prove the rumors true?" "I want to understand why you hate me so much. We used to be close, Mel. Remember when we'd hide in the treehouse during Mom's fights with Dad? When you'd crawl into my bed during thunderstorms?" Something flickered in her eyes. Pain, maybe regret, but it vanished quickly. "That was before." "Before what?" "Before I realized you abandoned me too. Just like Dad, just like everyone else. You got married, had your perfect family, and forgot all about me." "That's not true. I invited you to everything. Holidays, birthdays. You never showed up." "Because I couldn't stand watching you live the life I wanted." Her voice cracked. "The husband, the kids, the career. Everything comes so easy to you." I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. "Easy? I worked 3 jobs to put myself through nursing school. I raised 2 kids alone after watching my husband die of cancer. Nothing about my life has been easy." "At least you had a life to build. I'm 30 years old, working in a coffee shop, living in a cramped apartment, and—" She stopped abruptly, pressing her lips together. "And what?" "Nothing. Just leave me alone." As she turned away, I noticed something I hadn't before, the medical alert bracelet on her wrist. She tried to hide it, but I caught a glimpse of the text, "Chronic kidney disease." "Mel, are you sick? Get out of my way." She pushed past me, but I saw the tears in her eyes. I went home and spent hours researching, piecing together clues from her social media. Doctor appointments she'd vaguely mentioned, complaints about fatigue. A GoFundMe page quickly taken down. Deborah called around midnight. "Any luck with your sister?" "She's sick, Deb. Really sick. And instead of helping her, I'm plotting revenge." "She's trying to take your kids away, Viv. Being sick doesn't excuse that." My doorbell rang. making me jump. Through the peephole, I saw Roberto from social services, looking apologetic even at this late hour. "Ms. Vivienne, I'm sorry to disturb you, but we received another report. I need to speak with Kirk and Aurora." My hands shook as I opened the door. "At midnight?" The report suggested immediate danger. He glanced at his tablet. "Something about prescription drug abuse?" Fresh rage coursed through me. Melanie knew about Brody's leftover pain medications, which I'd properly disposed of years ago. She was escalating. "My children are asleep," I said firmly. "Come back tomorrow with a warrant." After he left, I called my lawyer, Luca. His sleepy voice turned alert as I explained the situation. "Don't let them in without me present," he advised. "And Vivienne, document everything. We're going to need it." I hung up and stared at Melanie's Facebook page again. Behind the perfectly filtered photos and casual cruelty, my little sister was dying, but she'd chosen to spend what might be her final months trying to destroy me. "Game on, Mel," I whispered to the screen. "You want to play dirty?" I learned from the best, our mother. The hospital's records department was eerily quiet at this hour. Deborah's badge got us in. One of the perks of having a friend who still worked here. My hands trembled as I logged into the system using my old credentials, which thankfully hadn't been deactivated yet. "Are you sure about this?" Deborah whispered, keeping watch at the door. "If we get caught..." "5 minutes." I typed Melanie's name into the search bar. "I just need to know what we're dealing with." The records loaded and my breath caught. Stage 4 kidney disease. Multiple hospitalizations in the past year. Dialysis 3 times a week. A rejected transplant application due to lack of family support. "Oh, Mel," I whispered, scanning the notes. "Why didn't you tell me?" A noise in the hallway made us freeze. Deborah peeked out. "Security's making rounds. We need to go." I quickly printed the relevant pages and logged out. We slipped through the back exit, just as flashlight beams swept the corridor behind us. In my car, I studied the papers. She needs a kidney donor. That's why she's so angry. She thinks I abandoned her when she needed me most. "You didn't know," Deborah said softly. "But Mom did." The realization hit like a punch to the gut. She's known all along. I drove to Melanie's apartment, the medical records burning a hole in my bag. The lights were on despite the late hour. When she opened the door, her face was pale and drawn. How had I not noticed before? "What part of 'leave me alone' didn't you understand?" I held up the records. "Were you ever going to tell me?" Her eyes widened, then narrowed. "You had no right." "I'm your sister," my voice cracked. "I'm a match for donation, I know I am. We could have..." "Could have what? Played happy families? You made your choice years ago." "When? When did I choose anything except trying to survive?" She leaned against the doorframe, suddenly looking exhausted. "The day Mom called about my diagnosis. She said she tried to reach you, but you wouldn't come." "What?" I stepped closer. "Mom never called me about anything." The last time we spoke was at Dad's funeral. Confusion flickered across Melanie's face. "But she showed me the text where you said you were too busy with your perfect life to deal with family drama." I pulled out my phone, scrolling through years of messages. "I never got any texts from her. Look." Melanie took my phone, her hands shaking. "She lied, but why would she?" "Because that's what Mom does. She plays us against each other. Always has." She sank onto her couch and I noticed the dialysis equipment in the corner, the pill bottles on the coffee table. "I'm so tired, Viv. Of everything. Let me help you, please." "Why would you even want to? After what I did?" "Because you're my sister, and because I understand now. Mom manipulated both of us. She knew you were sick, knew I could help, and deliberately kept us apart." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I was so angry, watching your perfect life on Facebook while mine fell apart. When Mum suggested I expose your true nature, it felt like justice." "Mum suggested the posts?" She nodded. "She helped write them. Said it would force you to notice me finally." My phone buzzed. A text from Roberto. "Home visit tomorrow at 9 a.m. Bring your lawyer." They're coming to evaluate me tomorrow, I said. Because of your posts, I might lose my children. Melanie's face crumpled. I'm sorry, I'll tell them the truth. It's not that simple anymore. The damage is done, my job, my reputation. I'll fix it, I promise. She grabbed her phone, hands trembling. I'll post right now that I lied. Wait, I caught her wrist. Mom needs to answer for this too. She used your illness to manipulate you into destroying my life. Why? The transplant program, Melanie whispered. They wanted a family member to be the primary caregiver during recovery. Mom refused, said she was too old. If you had been there, she kept us apart so she wouldn't have to take responsibility. Anger burned in my chest and nearly destroyed both our lives in the process. A coughing fit seized Melanie, and I instinctively reached for her. She stiffened at first, then leaned into my embrace like she used to when we were kids. I'm scared, Viv, she whispered. I don't want to die. You're not going to. I held her tighter. But first we need to deal with Mom. Are you with me? She pulled back, wiping her eyes. What's the plan? Tomorrow, after the social services visit, we're going to pay Mother Dearest a surprise visit. It's time she faced the consequences of her games. Melanie's phone lit up with a text from Mom. Did it work? Is she suffering yet? We looked at each other, and for the first time in years, I saw my little sister again. Not the angry woman who'd tried to destroy me, but the girl who used to have my back against the world. Let's take her down, Melanie said firmly. Roberto sat at my kitchen table, flipping through files while Luca, my lawyer, watched him like a hawk. Kirk and Aurora were upstairs with Deborah, supposedly doing homework, but I knew they were worried. Kids always know when something's wrong. These allegations are serious, Roberto said, adjusting his glasses. Multiple reports of substance abuse, neglect. All false, Luca interrupted, and we can prove it. How convenient that these accusations surface right after my sister's kidney disease diagnosis, I added, sliding Melanie's medical records across the table. Records that show our mother refused to be her caregiver. Roberto studied the papers. I don't see the connection. My mother orchestrated this smear campaign. She manipulated my sick sister into attacking me because she didn't want to take responsibility for Melanie's care. A small voice came from the stairs. Is Aunt Mel sick? We all turned to see Aurora, clutching her stuffed rabbit. My heart squeezed. Baby, you should be upstairs, I said softly. Is that why she's being mean to you? Because she's sick? Roberto watched this exchange intently. I lifted Aurora onto my lap, breathing in her sweet shampoo scent. Sometimes when people are hurting, they hurt others too, but that doesn't make it right. Can we make her better? I'm going to try, sweetheart. I looked at Roberto. That's who I am. A mother who teaches her children compassion, even when it's hard. Does that sound like the monster in those reports? He closed his folder. I'd like to speak with the children, separately. An hour later, after Roberto left with a notably softer expression, I found a text from Melanie. Mom wants to meet, says she can explain everything. It's a trap, Luca warned, packing up his briefcase. Of course it is. I grabbed my keys. That's counting on it. I picked up Melanie from her apartment. She looked worse than yesterday, dark circles under her eyes. You should be resting, I said as she buckled in. Not until we finish this. She held up her phone. I recorded every conversation with Mom about the posts. Everything. Mom's house looked exactly as I remembered. Pristine lawn, perfect flowers, facade of suburban tranquility. Inside, probably still smelled like gin and regret. She opened the door wearing her church smile. My girls, finally together again. Save it, I pushed past her. We know what you did. I'm sure I don't know what you mean. She headed for her drink cart, predictable as ever. The lies, Melanie said. The fake texts, using my illness to turn me against Vivian. Mom's hand trembled slightly as she poured her gin. I was trying to help you. By destroying my life, I stepped closer, by risking my children being taken away. You abandoned your sister. No, you kept us apart. Melanie's voice cracked. Show her, Viv. I pulled out my phone, playing the recording Melanie had sent me. Mum's voice, clear as day, dictating the cruel lies to post about me. Mum's face hardened. You recorded me? I recorded everything. Melanie sank onto the couch, exhausted. Every manipulation, every lie. I did it for you, Mom insisted. Vivienne had everything while you were suffering. I could have been her donor, I shouted. I could have saved her. But you couldn't let that happen, could you? Because then you'd have to help during recovery. Actually be a mother for once. You don't understand. No, you don't understand. I pulled out more papers. These are from my lawyer, a restraining order against you. And this is a formal complaint to the transplant board about your interference with a potential donor. You wouldn't dare. Try me. One more post about me, one more call to social services, and these go through. Plus the recordings go public. She sank into her chair, suddenly looking old. I just wanted to control us, Melanie finished, like always. But we're done. We're going to fix what you broke, I added. I'm getting tested as a donor match tomorrow. Melanie's moving in with me during recovery. We're going to be a real family without you. You need me, Mum whispered. No, Melanie stood shakily. We really don't. Walking out of that house felt like breaking free of chains. In the car, Melanie started crying. I'm so sorry, Viv, for everything. Hey, I grabbed her hand. We're going to make this right. My phone buzzed, a text from Roberto. Investigation closed. No evidence of wrongdoing. Good luck with your sister. See, I showed Melanie the message. Everything's going to be okay. The posts, we'll deal with them together. But first, let's get you well. Driving home, I remembered something Brody used to say. Family isn't about blood, it's about who bleeds with you. Looking at my sister, I finally understood. Sometimes the deepest wounds come from those closest to us, but healing can too. Kirk and Aurora want to see you, I said softly. If you're up for it. Melanie wiped her eyes. I'd like that. Behind us, Mom's perfect house grew smaller in the rearview mirror, taking her poison with it. Ahead lay something better, something real. Blood type match. Tissue compatibility looks good. Dr. Wilson smiled over her clipboard. Preliminary tests suggest you're a viable donor for your sister. Melanie squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. We'd spent the morning in the transplant clinic, both of us pretending we weren't terrified. There are risks, Dr. Wilson continued, for both of you, and the recovery period is significant. I understand, I said. When can we schedule the surgery? A knock interrupted us. My heart stopped when I saw Mom in the doorway, clutching her designer purse like a shield. What are you doing here? Melanie's voice shook. I'm still listed as your emergency contact. Mum stepped inside. The clinic called me about the procedure. Dr. Wilson looked between us. I'll give you a moment. Get out, I stood up. You have no right. I have every right. Mom's careful facade cracked. You think you can handle this? The aftercare, the medications, the complications, while raising 2 children alone? I won't be alone, I said. I have friends, support. You have a restraining order against your own mother. Because you tried to destroy me. The words echoed in the small room. Because you couldn't stand the thought of us helping each other. Stop it, both of you. Melanie's voice was weak but firm. Mom, why are you really here? Something flickered across Mom's face. Fear, maybe even guilt. I made a mistake. Which one? I asked bitterly. The lies, the manipulation, using Melanie's illness as a weapon. All of it. Mom sank into a chair. When the clinic called, I realized what I'd done. My daughters are about to have major surgery, and I can't even be there because of my own actions. Save the performance, I said. We're done with your games. It's not a game. She opened her purse, hands trembling. Look. She pulled out papers, bank statements, insurance documents, property deeds. What is this? Melanie asked. I'm selling the house. Everything. I've set up a trust for the medical expenses, aftercare, whatever you need. Mum's voice cracked. I should have done this months ago. I stared at the documents. The numbers were substantial, enough to cover the surgery, recovery, and then some. Why now? Melanie whispered. Because I'm afraid. Mum's carefully applied makeup couldn't hide her tears. Afraid of losing both my daughters. Afraid of what I've become. You should be afraid, I said. Do you know what it felt like? Having social services question my children, losing my job, thinking my sister hated me. I know I can't fix it, but please let me try to make it right. Dr. Wilson returned, more papers in hand. We need to discuss the recovery plan. The primary caregiver needs to... I'll do it, Mom interrupted. Both of them will need help. Let me do this one thing right. I looked at Melanie. Her face was pale, but there was something like hope in her eyes. If, I said slowly, and only if, you agree to counseling. All of us. Together. And you take down every post, Melanie added. Make public apologies. Clear Vivian's name completely. Already done. Mom pulled out her phone, showing us the retraction she'd posted hours ago. I called the hospital too about your job. My throat tightened. They won't take me back. Actually, Dr. Wilson interjected, we could use a transplant recovery specialist, someone who understands both sides of the process. Once you've recovered, of course. The room blurred with tears. Melanie reached for my hand again, and after a moment's hesitation, reached for Mum's too. We have 6 weeks until the surgery, Dr. Wilson said. Time to prepare, to heal, in all ways. Later that night, after Melanie was settled in my guest room and the kids were asleep, I sat on my back porch. The same porch where I'd cried after Brody died, where I'd planned my future as a single mom, where I'd recently contemplated losing everything. My phone lit up with a text from Mom. Thank you for giving me a chance to make amends. I don't deserve it. No, I typed back, you don't. But Brody always said forgiveness isn't about deserving. It's about choosing to break the cycle. He was a wise man. I should have appreciated him more. You more. I looked through my window at Melanie sleeping peacefully, then up at the stars Brody and I used to count. One day at a time, I texted Mom. That's all any of us can do. Inside, Kirk appeared in his pajamas. Mom, is Aunt Mel really going to be okay? I pulled him close. We're all going to be okay, baby. Different, maybe, but okay. Can I help take care of her after the surgery? My heart swelled. Despite everything, my children had learned compassion instead of bitterness. Maybe that was the greatest victory of all. Yes, I said, hugging him tight. We're all going to help each other now. That's what family does. What family should have been doing all along. I need you to count backward from 10, the anesthesiologist said, adjusting my IV. I looked across the pre-op room to where Melanie lay on her own gurney, already unconscious. Mom stood between us, her hands fluttering nervously from one daughter to another. 10, 9, 8. The next thing I knew, I was waking up to beeping monitors and the sharp smell of antiseptic. Everything hurt. Hey, sleepyhead, Deborah's familiar voice. Surgery went great. I tried to speak, but my throat was too dry. Mel? She's doing well. They're monitoring her kidney function closely. Mum appeared on my other side, looking like she hadn't slept in days. The doctors say everything went perfectly. You did it, sweetie. The next few days passed in a blur of pain medication, careful walks down hospital corridors, and visits from Kirk and Aurora, who treated both their mum and aunt like fragile treasures. A week after surgery, they moved us to the same room for recovery. Melanie's color was better already, her eyes brighter. Your kidney's an overachiever, she joked weakly, just like you. Must run in the family, I managed, still sore but sitting up. You're healing faster than expected. Mom came in with 3 cups of terrible hospital coffee. She'd barely left the hospital, sleeping in uncomfortable chairs and coordinating with Deborah to care for the kids. Ladies. Roberto appeared in the doorway, looking uncomfortable in the hospital setting. I hope I'm not interrupting. Social services following up even here. I tried to laugh but winced instead. Actually, I'm here unofficially. He pulled up a chair. The posts about you have gone viral again, but differently this time. People are sharing your story. Sisters reunited through organ donation, healing from family trauma. It's inspiring others to become donors. Melanie's eyes filled with tears. Really? Several transplant centers reported increased inquiries about living donation. Your mother's public apology and explanation helped contextualize everything. Mom squeezed my hand. The hospital board meets tomorrow about your reinstatement. This publicity can't hurt. I've been thinking, I said slowly, about starting a support group for families dealing with organ donation, medical trauma, online harassment. Count me in, Melanie said. Once I'm stronger, I want to help too. A commotion in the hallway drew our attention. Kirk and Aurora burst in, followed by Deborah carrying what looked like half a party store. Surprise! Aurora held up a handmade card covered in glitter. We made Get Better Soon cards for both of you. Kirk was more reserved but equally earnest. And we learned about kidneys in science class. Did you know you only need one to live? That's so cool. Inside voice, sweetie, Mom reminded him, but she was smiling. Deborah started hanging up balloons while the kids showed us their cards. Roberto watched the scene with obvious approval. I'll make my final report today, he said quietly, recommending the case be closed permanently. You've got quite a support system here. Took us long enough to figure it out, Melanie said, reaching for my hand across the space between our beds. That evening, after everyone left and the hospital quieted, Melanie spoke into the darkness. I had a dream about Dad last night. Yeah? He was disappointed in how we let Mum tear us apart, said we were stronger together. I thought about our father, gone too soon like Brody. He always wanted us to protect each other. We failed at that pretty spectacularly. Maybe, I shifted carefully to look at her, or maybe we needed to break apart to come back stronger. Like that Japanese thing, with broken pottery and gold. Kintsugi. Brody loved that concept, making something more beautiful by repairing it. A nurse came in to check our vitals, smiling at finding us both awake. Your numbers look great. Keep this up and you'll be home soon. After she left, Melanie said, I'm scared about going home, being alone again. You won't be. You're coming to my house, remember? The kids are already planning your welcome home party. But after I recover, we'll figure it out, together this time. Mom appeared in the doorway, having obviously been listening. I've been looking at houses near Vivienne's, something smaller, where I could help out but not intrude. The old me would have rejected this instantly, but the woman lying here, missing a kidney and gaining a sister back, understood something about second chances. We'll talk about it, I said, after more counseling. Mum nodded, accepting this conditional olive branch. Get some rest, my girls. As she left, Melanie whispered, Do you think we can really do this? Be a real family? I thought about the broken pieces of us, Mom's manipulation, Dad's death, my grief over Brody, Melanie's illness, the lies and pain and fear. But I also thought about the gold filling those cracks. My children's compassion, Deborah's loyalty, the strength we'd found in forgiveness. We already are, I said, just not the family we thought we'd be. Maybe something better. The monitors beeped steadily in the darkness, 2 hearts beating, 1 kidney healing, and countless broken pieces slowly, carefully, beautifully coming together again. 3 months after the surgery, I stood before the hospital board, my hand steady despite my racing heart. Luca sat beside me, but this wasn't a legal battle anymore. It was my chance to reclaim my life. As you can see, Dr. Marshall gestured to the presentation screen, the publicity from Ms. Vivienne's story has increased our transplant center's profile significantly. Donor registrations are up 40%. That's not why I'm here, I interrupted. I'm here because I'm a good nurse, because my patients deserve someone who understands both sides of the transplant journey. Tell us about your proposed support program. One board member leaned forward. When my sister and I were going through this, we felt alone. The medical support was excellent, but the emotional support, the family dynamics, the social media harassment, there was nowhere to turn. I clicked to the next slide. This program would provide counseling, support groups, and resources for families navigating organ donation. We'd also help victims of online harassment rebuild their lives. Ambitious, another member noted, and expensive. I've secured private funding. I nodded to Mom, sitting quietly in the back. And several social workers have volunteered their time, including Roberto Gibson, who investigated my case. Roberto stood. I've witnessed firsthand how false allegations can destroy lives. This program could prevent that. The board deliberated while I waited outside. Melanie appeared, looking healthy and strong, carrying 2 coffee cups. Thought you could use this, she handed me one. The support group loved your story at today's meeting. How many showed up? 15. 3 were social media harassment victims. 2 were potential donors scared to tell their families. Dr. Marshall emerged from the boardroom. They're ready for you. Inside, the chief of surgery spoke first. We've reviewed everything. Your record, the incident reports, the proposed program. We're prepared to offer you not just reinstatement, but a promotion. Director of Transplant Patient Support Services. It's a new position, created specifically for this program. I blinked back tears. Thank you. Don't thank us yet, he smiled. You start Monday. Lot of work ahead. Outside, Mum was waiting with Kirk and Aurora. Did you get your job back? Aurora bounced excitedly. Even better, Princess. I got a new job helping people like Aunt Mel. Speaking of help, Mom said hesitantly, I found a house, 3 blocks from yours. If that's still okay. The kids cheered before I could answer. Over the past months, Mom had proven herself, attending therapy, helping with recovery, rebuilding trust one small act at a time. We'll try it, I said, one day at a time. That evening, we gathered in my backyard for a celebration. Deborah brought her famous lasagna. Roberto came with his wife, and Luca brought wine we couldn't drink yet because of medications. Remember when we used to have family dinners like this? Melanie asked quietly. Before Dad died. We're making new memories now, I squeezed her hand. Better ones. Kirk approached us shyly. Aunt Mel, would you help me with my science project? It's about organ donation. I'd love to, buddy. She ruffled his hair. But first, your mum and I have something to show everyone. We gathered everyone around my laptop where our new website was ready to launch. Second Chances, Family Healing Through Medical Crisis, read the header. It's beautiful, Mom whispered. Click the forum section, Melanie urged. Show them the messages. Hundreds of posts filled the screen. People sharing their stories of family rifts, medical crises, online harassment. More importantly, stories of healing, reconciliation, and hope. This is just the beginning, I said. We're partnering with 5 other hospitals to expand the program. And look at this. Melanie opened her phone to show a viral post. Our story, shared thousands of times. But instead of lies and accusations, it was filled with messages of support and inspiration. Mom? Aurora tugged at my sleeve. Can I tell them about my project? I nodded, and she ran inside, returning with a carefully wrapped package. Inside was a piece of pottery she'd made in art class, deliberately broken and repaired with gold-painted lines. It's kintsugi, she explained proudly, like you and Aunt Mel, broken but better now. Melanie started crying, which made Mum cry, which made Deborah pretend she wasn't crying. To Second Chances, Luca raised his water glass, and to families who find their way back to each other. To Kidney Sisters, Melanie added with a watery laugh. To healing, Mom said softly. I looked around at my expanded family, not perfect, still healing, but stronger in our broken places. The fairy lights twinkled overhead, and somewhere I felt Brody smiling. To all of it, I said, the breaks and the healing, the truth and the reconciliation, the family we lost and the family we found. As everyone clinked glasses, Aurora placed her pottery creation in the center of the table. A broken bowl made whole again, its golden seams catching the light like promises kept, like hope restored, like love that survives even the deepest wounds. "Ready to change some lives?" Melanie asked. I looked at my sister, my mother, my children, my friends. We already have. The autumn breeze carried the scent of coffee from the hospital's outdoor cafe, where I sat with Roberto, reviewing our latest case files. 5 more families enrolled in the program this week, he said, sliding over a folder. 2 dealing with transplant issues, 3 with online harassment. Any as dramatic as my family? He smiled. Thankfully, no. But they all need help. My phone buzzed, a text from Melanie. "Turn on the news now." I pulled up the live stream on my tablet, just as my sister appeared before a congressional committee, her voice strong and clear. "Social media harassment destroys lives," she was saying. "My own actions nearly cost my sister her children, her career, everything she'd worked for. We need stronger laws protecting people from digital abuse." Roberto watched with me. "She's come a long way from posting those lies. We all have." I gestured to the hospital's new transplant support wing behind us, where Mom was leading a family counseling session. Through the window, I could see her gentle smile, her patient nods, a different woman from the manipulator who'd torn us apart. "Vivienne," a familiar voice made me turn. Mrs. Peterson, my former patient, stood there beaming. "I hoped I'd find you here. My daughter needs a kidney, and after reading your story..." "Sit," I pulled out a chair. "Tell me everything." As she spoke, I noticed Kirk and Aurora arriving with Deborah for their after-school volunteer shift. At 13 and 11 now, they spent their free time helping in the children's ward, sharing their experience as a transplant family. "Mom," Aurora ran over. "Guess what? My anti-bullying presentation got chosen for the school assembly." "That's wonderful, sweetheart. Mrs. Peterson, these are my children, living proof that families can survive anything together." My phone buzzed again. Melanie had finished her testimony. "Legislation passed. Coming home to celebrate." The celebration ended up at Brody's bench in the park near our homes. We'd restored it after Mom moved to the neighborhood, making it our family's gathering spot. The plaque now read, "In memory of Brody, where broken hearts learn to heal." "I wish Dad could see this," Melanie said, sitting between Mom and me. "All of us together, helping others." "He can," Mom squeezed her hand, "just like Brody can." Speaking of helping others, I pulled out some papers. "Remember that house next to mine, the one that went up for sale?" Melanie's eyes widened. "You didn't." "We did. Mom and I bought it together. It's going to be our first Second Chances transitional home, for families going through medical crises or rebuilding after online harassment." "Like a safe house?" Kirk asked. "Exactly. Somewhere people can heal, physically and emotionally. With built-in support right next door," Mom added. "Plus, the hospital programs, counseling." Deborah arrived with a cake decorated with a golden kidney design. "Celebrating another milestone." "Several," I laughed. "Melanie's testimony, the new safe house, Aurora's presentation." "And this," Melanie pulled out her phone, showing us her latest viral post. But this one was different. It was the story of her lies, her illness, our healing, and the thousands of lives we'd touched since. The comments section overflowed with support. "Your program saved my family. Finally told my brother I'll be his donor. Thank you for showing us that redemption is possible. Remember when we thought social media would destroy us?" I asked Melanie. "Now it's how we save others." She hugged me carefully, still mindful of our scars, though they'd long since healed. Aurora placed her latest art project on the bench, another kintsugi piece, this one a heart with golden seams. "For the safe house," she said, "so people know broken things can be beautiful." Mom wiped her eyes. "When did our children get so wise?" "They learned from experience," I said. "We all did." As the sun set, casting golden light across our gathering, I thought about the journey that brought us here, The lies that nearly destroyed us had become truth that helped others. The sister who tried to ruin me now fought to protect others from the same mistakes. The mother who manipulated us had learned to support instead. Penny for your thoughts, Melanie nudged me. Just thinking about karma. How sometimes the worst things lead to the best changes. Deep thoughts for a kidney sister, she teased. Speaking of karma, Mom called from the bench, your next support group is waiting. Through the twilight, I could see them gathering, families bearing invisible scars, seeking the healing we'd found. They carried their broken pieces, ready to learn about golden seams. Ready? I asked Melanie. She looked at our family, Mom arranging refreshments, the kids setting up chairs, Deborah hanging fairy lights in the trees, and smiled. Together, she said, taking my hand. We walked toward our waiting group, whole in our brokenness, stronger in our healing, ready to show others the way home. Behind us, Aurora's golden heart caught the last rays of sun, shining like a beacon of hope, a promise that even the deepest wounds could become the most beautiful scars.
After Michael proposed, I was thrilled. We planned to marry, surrounded by love and excitement. I'm Naomi, 25 years old, enjoying life with Michael, our child, and my supportive parents. Our story began 3 years ago, at 33, when Michael, my then colleague and movie buddy, asked me out. His kindness and patience made him beloved at work, and I fell for him hard. Michael dreamt of starting his own business, and I was eager to support him. Our engagement was a joyful milestone. We first shared our news with my family, who warmly welcomed Michael. My parents approved of our union, and Michael bonded well with them, especially over drinks with my dad. Encouraged by their acceptance, we looked forward to introducing me to Michael's family the following weekend, hopeful for a similar reception. However, the visit to Michael's home was starkly different. His family, led by his mother Addison and sister Hannah, rejected me outright, forbidding any contact and dismissing me harshly. Their beauty had fostered a sense of entitlement, making them hostile towards perceived rivals. Even Michael's father and brother joined in this cold dismissal. Despite this initial rejection, the past 6 months have seen a dramatic turn. I've achieved a form of grand revenge against their unwarranted envy and hostility. Not through spite, but by building a happy life with Michael away from their negativity. Our bond, strengthened by overcoming these challenges, has flourished, proving that love and support can triumph over bitterness and jealousy. Before visiting Michael's family, I hadn't heard much about them from him. Given that Michael lived alone, I assumed he wasn't very close to his family. However, the night before our visit, Michael mentioned on the phone that his parents might be a bit odd, which left me feeling a bit uneasy, but I chose not to dwell on it too much. The following day, we met at the station and made our way to his family home. My nerves were on edge, partly because it was my first time visiting his family, and partly because I was unsure what to expect. The sight of their grand mansion, with its sprawling garden, was intimidating, and I wondered about the kind of upbringing Michael had in such a luxurious setting. Michael, noticing my nervousness, reassured me with his gentle smile, which helped calm me down a bit. Upon entering, we were greeted by his mother, Addison, who was the epitome of elegance and grace. She welcomed us warmly, a stark contrast to the brief warning Michael had given me the night before. Inside, the rest of Michael's family, including his father, brother, sister-in-law Hannah, and their children, greeted us with smiles. The atmosphere was surprisingly welcoming, and as we sat down to dinner, Michael and I shared the news of our engagement. The reaction was overwhelmingly positive, with Addison and Hannah expressing their delight at having me join the family. The evening was filled with lively conversation and shared stories, making me feel embraced by Michael's family despite my initial apprehensions. My father-in-law was the owner of a successful company that organized package tours, and my brother-in-law, who still lived at home, worked there as the executive director with plans to eventually take the helm. Addison and Hannah, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law respectively, were homemakers who led refined lives filled with hobbies like dance and flower arrangement classes. Hannah, in particular, took great care in her appearance and carried herself with confidence. During our visit, my father-in-law was especially welcoming, frequently engaging me in conversation to make me feel comfortable. His kindness was palpable, and I felt genuinely appreciated. However, the mood shifted slightly when he inquired about my employment status at the same company as Michael, wondering if I was a contract worker. I explained that I was hired as a full-time employee straight out of university, just like Michael. Our company is well-regarded and competitive, attracting many job applicants, but I managed to secure my position there after graduating. When my father-in-law asked about my university, I shared that I graduated from Harvard, which seemed to impress him greatly. Both he and Michael showered me with compliments, which, while flattering, left me feeling a bit embarrassed. I had attended a prestigious university in the U.S., dedicating myself fully to my studies, often at the cost of my sleep. My parents, despite not being wealthy, had worked tirelessly to support my education. Motivated by a desire to repay their sacrifices, I aimed for a reputable college and a good job. My determination was unwavering, fueled by a deep gratitude towards my parents and a commitment to making them proud. As the conversation flowed, I couldn't help but notice Addison and Hannah's silence. Their earlier warmth seemed to fade, replaced by a quietness that suggested they might not share the rest of the family's enthusiasm about my achievements and background. Feeling the need to shift the suddenly tense atmosphere, I admired the fresh flower arrangement on the table, complimenting Addison on it. Her response, however, was curt and dismissive. Confusion washed over me as her tone sharply contrasted the warmth she had shown moments earlier. Echoing Addison's sentiment, Hannah suggested that my advanced education likely made me view their domestic conversations as beneath me. This was far from my intention, and her words left me speechless, a mix of embarrassment and hurt bubbling up inside. Michael stepped in, defending me and stating that I was not one to judge others, his support a small solace in the awkwardness that had enveloped the room. The atmosphere grew even more strained as my father-in-law, having indulged in drinks since the afternoon, dozed off, and my brother-in-law distracted himself with his phone, clearly uninterested in the gathering. At Michael's cue, we decided it was time to leave, a decision that lifted a weight off my shoulders. On our way back, Michael apologized for the day's events, explaining that his mother and sister's pride, stemming from their educational background, made them sensitive to perceived slights. He shared that Addison, before becoming a part of their family, had worked in a flower shop, capturing his father's attention and affection with her beauty. Her popularity with customers and his father's persistent courtship led to their marriage. It was clear that even now, Addison held a significant influence over him, a testament to their enduring connection. Michael's explanation shed light on the dynamics of his family, offering a glimpse into the complexities and sensitivities that shaped their interactions. Hannah, my sister-in-law, was also strikingly beautiful. She and my brother-in-law were once college classmates and reconnected at a reunion in their early 30s. Struck by her beauty, my brother-in-law was smitten, and, after persistent courtship, they became a couple. Like my father-in-law, my brother-in-law seemed to be under his wife's influence, often bending to her will. Despite my own academic achievements, I couldn't grasp why they appeared so insecure. They were both attractive and had caring husbands dedicated to their well-being. The day ended with feelings of doubt and a bit of sadness, leaving me to ponder the future of my marriage amidst this discomfort. Nonetheless, having received blessings for our marriage from both sides of the family, Michael and I proceeded with our wedding plans. Despite lingering doubts, I believed open communication would bridge any gaps between us. Michael reassured me. "Don't worry, I'll always be by your side, Naomi," helping me maintain a hopeful outlook. After months of planning, it was the eve of our wedding when an unexpected call from Michael's mother brought everything to a halt. The call ended abruptly with Michael exclaiming in disbelief. My in-laws had apparently booked a trip and would miss our wedding. The news was baffling and left us both anxious for an explanation. Attempts to reach not only Addison but also my father-in-law and brother-in-law were futile, with our calls going unanswered. Confused and seeking clarity, we rushed to the in-laws' house, only to find it deserted. an ominous sign of their absence. Reflecting on my previous visit, I wondered aloud if I had inadvertently offended Michael's mother and sister, recalling the tense atmosphere. Michael tried to reassure me, indicating that the situation was as puzzling to him as it was to me. This unexpected turn of events on the eve of our wedding left us both in a state of shock and uncertainty, questioning the dynamics of our family relationships and what lay ahead. Michael had previously mentioned that both his mother and sister took great pride in their intelligence, which sometimes made them quite stubborn. He suggested that their absence at our wedding might be rooted in some unresolved grudge, though he couldn't be sure. When I questioned why Michael's father and brother-in-law would also miss the wedding, Michael explained that they tended to follow the lead of the women in the family, likely to avoid any conflict. I was stunned by this revelation. Despite our efforts, we couldn't reach Michael's family on our wedding day, forcing us to proceed without them. The situation left me bewildered and questioning if I had somehow been at fault, or if they truly had prioritized a trip to the hot springs over their son's wedding. My parents were visibly confused and concerned when they learned about the absence of Michael's family, offering their support to Michael despite their own mixed feelings. The absence of Michael's family became a whispered topic among our guests, and even the boss, who had graciously agreed to speak at our reception, inquired about their whereabouts. We found ourselves awkwardly excusing their absence by claiming they were ill, not wanting to divulge the true, baffling reason. 5 days post-wedding, we visited Michael's parents to inform them the ceremony had concluded. Addison's casual apology for missing the wedding, mentioning a forgotten souvenir, struck me as insincere. Trying to maintain peace, I masked my disappointment with a polite response, though inside I felt deeply hurt. Michael, unable to hide his frustration, confronted the situation head-on, emphasizing the absurdity of canceling attendance at the last minute and questioning the normalcy of their decision. Hannah's response to this confrontation remained unheard, but it was clear that the dynamics within Michael's family were complex and strained. In navigating these challenging interactions, we were left to consider the implications for our future relationship with his family. Hannah's shocking admission that she would have attended the wedding if I weren't the bride left me reeling in confusion. The tension escalated when Addison accused me of ruining what should have been a joyous occasion for her, demanding an apology as if I were the instigator of their absence. Michael defended me, insisting I hadn't done anything to warrant such blame. The confrontation reached its peak when my father-in-law, previously silent, erupted in anger, demanding we leave their home immediately. As we were hastily making our exit, I felt a sharp pain in my foot and discovered a caterpillar inside my shoe. The situation went from bad to worse as Addison and Hannah observed my discomfort with barely concealed glee. Despite my wish to leave quickly and without further incident, Addison's parting words were a cold request from me to keep my distance from their family, except for weddings and funerals, abruptly shutting the door before I could seek any clarification. The ride home was filled with Michael's apologies, assuring me that I no longer needed to make any effort to connect with his family. This entire ordeal left me feeling wronged and bewildered, wondering what I had done to be treated so harshly. The aftermath of that day was a painful reminder of the encounter, as I woke up to intense itching and discovered my body covered in red, swollen welts. A visit to the dermatologist confirmed that the caterpillar was to blame, leading to 2 weeks of unbearable itching and sleepless nights. Reflecting on the visit, I recalled seeing my brother-in-law near my shoes, which now seemed suspicious. This series of unfortunate events underscored the complex and strained relationship with Michael's family, leaving me to navigate the difficult emotions of feeling blamed and excluded, while also dealing with the physical discomfort caused by the unexpected caterpillar encounter. After the caterpillar incident, my trust in Michael's family had eroded to the point where any accidental occurrence seemed suspect. A month later, Michael began experiencing severe stomach pains, leading to his hospitalization. Doctors suspected a gastric ulcer, necessitating further tests. Despite the strained relations and being explicitly told to avoid contact with his family, except for weddings or funerals, I felt it was necessary to inform them of Michael's condition. With trembling hands and a nauseous feeling, I called Addison, Michael's mother. The sound of her voice immediately heightened my anxiety. I explained Michael's situation, only to be met with a dismissive response. Addison insinuated that Michael's health issues were trivial and suggested they were a result of my supposedly overworking him. She then bluntly stated her desire to have no further contact with me and emphasized it was unnecessary to inform her about such trivial matters. Her lack of concern for Michael's well-being left me stunned. Before I could process her words, my brother-in-law took the phone, accusing me of being overly persistent and intrusive. He expressed annoyance at being contacted and hung up abruptly. The call's end felt like a definitive break, not just in communication, but in any semblance of familial bond that might have existed. The harsh words from Addison and the outright rejection from the rest of Michael's family underscored their unwillingness to see beyond their prejudices and biases, even in light of Michael's health crisis. This realization was a painful acknowledgement of the chasm between us, one that seemed to widen with each interaction. Feeling deeply wronged by Michael's family's dismissive and hurtful attitude, I resolved to cut ties with them entirely. Their lack of concern and refusal to communicate, especially during Michael's health scare, solidified my decision. I vowed never to reach out again, regardless of circumstances. Fortunately, Michael's health scare turned out to be a mild gastric ulcer. With proper medication, he quickly recovered. When I shared the ordeal with Michael, he firmly decided that we should distance ourselves from his family. He declared that if his family couldn't accept me, they were no longer considered family to him, despite the blood ties. A year later, Michael pursued his dream of starting a software sales company, utilizing his extensive experience from his previous job. Watching him work tirelessly to make his dream a reality was truly inspiring. Our joy multiplied when we welcomed a healthy baby boy into our family. My parents, ecstatic about their grandchild, visited often, filling our lives with happiness. We chose not to inform Michael's parents about our son, suspecting their indifference. Life without contact from Michael's family brought us certain peace. However, 5 months later, the outbreak of the new coronavirus imposed a global crisis, affecting many businesses, including those in the restaurant and tourism sectors. This led me to wonder about the state of Michael's father's package tour company amidst the pandemic. But I quickly reminded myself that it was no longer our concern. In this new chapter of our lives, Michael and I focused on our family and his budding business, facing the challenges and uncertainties of the world together, but with a sense of unity and determination that overshadowed any past conflict. Despite the tough economic climate, Michael's business was flourishing, a stark contrast to the uncertain beginnings. Income had begun to exceed what Michael earned as an employee, bringing a sense of stability and success to our lives. However, this period also saw Michael's parents reaching out more frequently, their calls going unanswered and their voicemails ignored, as Michael had chosen to distance himself from them. I often reassured Michael that it was okay to maintain contact with his family, recognizing the complexity of his feelings towards them. Despite my own disdain for their treatment of us, I understood they were his family. Yet, Michael's commitment to our relationship was unwavering. He made it clear that my acceptance by his family was non-negotiable, and without it, he chose to prioritize our unity over familial bonds. The persistence of Michael's parents was met with silence until a letter arrived, revealing their business was nearing bankruptcy, and they sought financial help. The audacity of this request, given their previous insistence on cutting ties, was striking. We decided not to respond, reflecting a sentiment of letting them face the consequences of their actions. Unexpectedly, my phone rang one day while I was at work, and a voicemail was left, seemingly from Michael's family, who had resorted to contacting me after failing to reach Michael. The message was a blunt warning that if Michael continued to ignore them, they would take more direct action. Reluctantly listening to the voicemail, I was confronted with the stark reality of the situation. The call, an unwelcome intrusion, was a reminder of the unresolved tensions between us and Michael's family. Their threat to escalate the situation if ignored added a new layer of complexity to our decision to maintain distance, leaving us to navigate the delicate balance between preserving our peace and addressing the lingering shadows of familial obligation. 2 days following the receipt of a mysterious voicemail, Michael and I were relishing a tranquil family day at home on his day off, which coincidentally fell on a Sunday. Our lunch had just concluded, and we were in the midst of deciding how to spend the remainder of our day, when suddenly, the doorbell echoed through the house. As I glanced at the door monitor, the sight of my four-in-laws waiting outside took me by surprise. Michael, noticing my bewildered expression, came over to see for himself. He sighed deeply and suggested we could simply ignore them, believing they would eventually leave if we didn't respond. However, I felt a sense of obligation to welcome them, given the distance they traveled, and argued that it would be only right to let them in despite any underlying tensions. Contrary to Michael's reluctance, I had kept him in the dark about the voicemail deliberately, planning to confront our in-laws with a strategy in mind. My apparent shock at their arrival was nothing but a fey aid, as I had anticipated their visit. The decision to invite them in wasn't out of hospitality, but a calculated move for what I believed was a necessary showdown. Upon their entry, without waiting for an invitation, they barged in, immediately filling the room with tension. They openly expressed their impatience and disdain for our supposed lack of manners, which was just the beginning of an uncomfortable encounter. When Michael's mother noticed our son playing, she feigned ignorance of his identity, to which I pointedly reminded her that he was, in fact, our child. Her pretense of forgetting only to provoke us was evident, and her dismissive attitude towards our request for privacy was met with a cold reminder from me that her interest in our lives was unwelcome. The atmosphere grew even more strained as I turned the conversation towards the purpose of their unexpected visit, hinting at a letter we had received. Michael's father inquired if we had read it, sparking a conversation that suggested a mix of deliberate communication breakdowns and unresolved tensions. The visit, unwelcome yet strategically allowed, set the stage for a confrontation that seemed long overdue, marking a pivotal moment in our complex family dynamics. When Michael's father criticized us for not responding to their urgent plea for contact, I couldn't help but point out the irony. They had previously made it clear they wanted nothing to do with us, so I saw no reason to reach out. It was difficult to contain my amusement at their sudden shift in demeanor, while Michael stayed quiet, letting me lead the conversation. The situation took a turn when my father-in-law, faced with the dire consequences of the pandemic on his travel business, shifted from anger to desperation. He pleaded for financial assistance, outlining the cancellations and lack of new bookings that threatened his company. My response was firm. I couldn't justify helping someone who had disowned us. However, I mentioned that a genuine show of sincerity might make me reconsider. This suggestion led to an outburst from my father-in-law, who then attempted to intimidate me. But the days when their hostility could unsettle me were gone. I stood my ground, leading him to demand apologies from the rest of the family, who reluctantly joined in his pleas. My polite refusal was met with rage, culminating in him physically lashing out in frustration. Michael's intervention at that moment underscored where his loyalties lay. He made it clear that I was his priority and that he could not condone his family's disrespectful treatment of me, even in their time of need. His stance was unequivocal. Without a heartfelt apology to me, there was no place for reconciliation. Michael's commitment to our relationship over familial pressure highlighted the depth of his support and love, firmly closing the door on any false pretenses of amends. In a moment of sheer anger, my father-in-law's temper flared uncontrollably, leading him to physically assault Michael, striking him in the face. The situation escalated quickly from there, with my father-in-law turning his rage towards Michael, who was now defenseless on the ground. In an attempt to intervene, I tried to restrain my father-in-law, only to be pushed away forcefully, resulting in my head colliding with the corner of a table. The impact was severe enough to cause a bleeding wound. The room fell into a tense silence as the other family members watched in shock, unsure of how to react. Amidst the chaos, my father-in-law's desperation for money drove him to start ransacking the room. Seizing the moment, I opened the balcony window and called out for help, attracting the attention of passersby and, shortly after, the police. Upon their arrival, my father-in-law attempted to downplay the incident, fabricating a story to the officers. However, I was quick to counter his claims, urging the police to take action against him for his violence and his attempt to extort money from us. His reaction, a mix of denial and aggression, led to his immediate arrest, along with the questioning of the other family members. While Michael sustained minor injuries from the altercation, the cut on my head required medical attention, resulting in 12 stitches. The aftermath left me with mixed feelings of guilt for putting Michael in harm's way, and relief that the ordeal might have put an end to their financial demands. Reflecting on our first encounter, it became apparent that the initial warmth from my father-in-law was a facade, influenced by Addison and Hannah's underlying jealousy. Their manipulation extended to directing the father-in-law and brother-in-law's behavior towards me, fostering a hostile environment. The incident with the caterpillar, presumably orchestrated by my brother-in-law under Hannah's influence, was a petty manifestation of their envy. This series of events highlighted the deep-seated issues within Michael's family, driven by jealousy and manipulation, ultimately leading to a breakdown in relationships and a violent confrontation that could not be ignored. The aftermath of our confrontation with my in-laws led to a stark turn in their fortunes. Their business, unable to recover, eventually went bankrupt, and they lost their home. Now, both my father-in-law and Addison, nearing their 60s, faced the grim reality of trying to enter the workforce again at their age, a daunting task given the circumstances. My brother-in-law, having spent his days at the company without genuine effort and frequently at the casino, found himself ill-equipped for the job market as he approached 40. Lacking practical skills, he resorted to a part-time job at a convenience store, a stark contrast to his previous lifestyle. Hannah, who had lived comfortably as a stay-at-home wife, found herself thrust into job hunting. However, her demanding nature made it challenging for her to maintain any part-time work she managed to find, resulting in her spending most of her time at home, isolated and frustrated. In contrast, after the incident, our family dynamics took a positive turn. My father retired and we decided to live together with my parents. Michael, who had always been thoughtful, suggested the arrangement out of concern for my parents as I am an only child. This decision brought us closer together, providing a supportive and loving environment for our son, who is cared for by my parents during the day. This allows me to return to work with peace of mind, knowing my son is in good hands. Life with Michael, my devoted husband, my caring parents, and our beloved son is filled with happiness. It's a daily reminder of how much I have to be thankful for, a stark contrast to the turmoil we experience with my in-laws. Despite everything, I'm committed to cherishing and never taking for granted the joy and love that surrounds me now. I'm Evelyn, a 28-year-old who embarked on a journey as an online designer after marrying my husband, Lucas. We share our living space with his mother in the house where Lucas grew up. Before marriage, I worked for a company, but post-wedding, I chose the path of an independent designer, working remotely. This decision was spurred by the desire to blend my career with the responsibilities of managing our home. The work I do primarily comes through referrals from my previous job, a testament to the trust and satisfaction my clients have in my abilities. This arrangement has proved mutually beneficial, allowing me the flexibility to juggle my professional and personal life seamlessly. However, this balance seems to be lost on my mother-in-law, who holds firmly to the traditional belief that a woman's place, once married, is solely in the domain of household chores, supporting her husband without external employment. Lucas attempts to mediate, highlighting the importance of my contributions, but his mother remains skeptical, often downplaying my work as merely a little home business and insisting on the importance of traditional housework. Her viewpoint fails to acknowledge the evolving dynamics of modern households where dual incomes are often the norm. Despite my efforts to manage both my work and the household efficiently, she remains dissatisfied, possibly viewing me through the lens of the past as someone not fitting the mold of the ideal housewife she envisions. This has led to a constant stream of sarcastic comments aimed at undermining my efforts and contributions. Lucas has shared that his mother's dependency on him has increased following the passing of his father, Daniel, 4 years ago. While this has brought them closer, it also places him in a delicate position, caught between the expectations of his mother and the reality of our life together. The house, a symbol of family legacy, now stands as a testament to the shifting dynamics and challenges we face as a family, trying to navigate the complexities of modern life while respecting the traditions of the past. My husband Lucas, his mother Aurora, and I share a cozy home that suits us perfectly. It even includes a dedicated workspace for me, which is incredibly beneficial for my online designing work. Aurora, who has been a fixture in this neighborhood for over 3 decades, enjoys a vibrant social life, often hosting gatherings with her friends. These visits, however, mean I occasionally have to pause my work to attend to the hospitality duties, serving tea and snacks to the group. As Aurora's friends congregate, their conversations invariably drift towards grievances about their daughters-in-law. Tales of excessive spending, frequent visits to parents, and other complaints fill the air, each seemingly competing to portray their situation as the most challenging. Amidst this chorus of discontent, my own efforts to balance professional and domestic responsibilities sometimes receive mention. Yet, when a friend commends me for managing both my job and household chores effectively, Aurora's response is tepid at best, dismissively referring to my career as nothing more than a small home-based venture, barely concealing her skepticism about its financial yield. The discussions among these friends often echo outdated sentiments, with one quipping about the financial independence of women in a manner that sparks collective amusement. Such conversations, steeped in nostalgia for a different era, seldom recognize the contributions of contemporary wives and mothers. To preserve my sanity and focus, I resort to headphones, tuning out the repetitive and disparaging narratives. One evening, amidst this backdrop of traditional expectations and modern realities, Lucas broached the subject of acquiring a new vehicle. "I've been thinking about getting a new car. Is that okay?" he inquired during dinner, seeking my input in a decision that affected us all. Aurora's immediate reaction was one of disbelief, questioning why Lucas felt the need to consult me about such a purchase. Lucas, ever the peacemaker, emphasized the importance of mutual agreement in decisions impacting our shared life, subtly advocating for a partnership approach in contrast to the unilateral decisions favored in Aurora's generation. This moment underscored the evolving dynamics within our family, reflecting a shift towards more inclusive decision-making processes in our shared journey. Aurora's insistence on independence clashed with Lucas's habit of seeking consensus, especially when it came to significant decisions like buying a new car. Aurora argued that since Lucas was the sole driver in our family, he should have the autonomy to choose the car he desired without needing to consult anyone. This left Lucas, who usually follows his mother's advice, looking for guidance between us. In an attempt to empower him, I suggested he make the decision himself, hoping to ease the tension. Lucas values both our opinions highly, which is commendable yet sometimes leads to frustration due to his hesitancy to make decisions independently. This trait starkly contrasts with his father Daniel's approach, who was more autocratic in his decisions, a behavior that Aurora found fault in. Yet, paradoxically, Aurora now criticizes the very lack of assertiveness in Lucas that she once lamented in Daniel, attributing Lucas's consultative nature to my supposed influence over him. Aurora's criticism extended to blaming me for Lucas's perceived shortcomings, suggesting that my nagging had rendered him indecisive. Lucas, perhaps caught in the moment or seeking to deflect the tension, echoed his mother's sentiments. This left me in a difficult position, defending myself against unfounded accusations, aware that arguing would be futile. Lucas tends to side with his mother in disputes, creating a rift between us. Despite his apologies and assurances of my importance to him when we are alone, his failure to support me in Aurora's presence has eroded my trust in him. This dynamic has forced me to question the sustainability of our relationship. Lucas's kindness is undeniable, but his reluctance to assert himself, especially in matters involving his mother, presents a significant challenge. I yearn for him to stand up for our partnership. When Lucas excitedly announced the arrival of the new car, his joy was palpable, and even Aurora seemed momentarily pleased. However, her approval came with a backhanded compliment about the car's expense, insinuating that it was acceptable only because it was funded by Lucas's earnings. Lucas chose not to engage with her comment, focusing instead on his new purchase. Witnessing this interaction, I was struck by the complexities of our familial dynamics, the pressures of balancing personal desires with family expectations, and the ongoing struggle to find a middle ground where decisions can be made with confidence and mutual respect. When Lucas returned home, beaming with excitement over his new car purchase, I couldn't help but confront him about the cost. His casual revelation that the car cost $60,000 left me stunned. His response hinted at confusion, reminding me that I had given him the green light to choose any car he liked. Aurora, ever ready to back up her son, chimed in, emphasizing that since I had deferred the decision to Lucas, any subsequent complaints were unjustified. Admittedly, I had encouraged Lucas to make his own choices, but I had naively hoped he would also weigh our financial realities. His admission of financing the car through a loan only heightened my concerns. Aurora, perhaps feeling sidelined by my focus on Lucas or just irate at my questioning, scolded me sharply, accusing me of being a burdensome daughter-in-law reliant on Lucas's income. Despite her harsh words, I countered, reminding her of my own contributions through my work. Yet she dismissed my efforts, belittling the income from my so-called part-time job compared to Lucas's substantial earnings. Her disdain was palpable, making it clear she viewed my financial contribution as insignificant. Lucas, perhaps overwhelmed by the confrontation, retreated, leaving me to face Aurora's criticisms alone. Aurora's patience, or rather her tolerance for me, had seemingly reached its limit. She expressed a blunt wish for a daughter-in-law who would leave their household. Her words, cutting and final, echoed my own frustrations and the culmination of ongoing tensions. The absurdity of arguing over my salary amidst a broader issue of respect and understanding within our family dynamic made me question the value of such disputes. Feeling both isolated by Aurora's comments and betrayed by Lucas's avoidance, I decided to remove myself from the immediate source of conflict. I announced my intention to leave, a statement born from a moment of desperation and a desire for clarity. Retreating to my home office, I sought solace in the one space where I felt some semblance of control, pondering the next steps in a situation that had escalated far beyond a simple disagreement over a car purchase. I quickly gathered my laptop and essentials, determined to leave behind the tension-filled atmosphere of my in-laws' home. "I'll be back for the rest later," I declared to Aurora, whose glare could freeze fire. Lucas stayed hidden in his room, avoiding the confrontation. As I announced my departure, Aurora's anger flared, her words biting and harsh. Demanding I return only with divorce papers signed, a level of hostility I hadn't encountered from her before. Her use of such harsh language stunned me, but I refused to let it detain me any longer. Returning to my parents' home, I was met with confusion and concern. My sudden appearance alarmed them, but they welcomed me with open arms, offering the sanctuary I desperately needed. My husband's silence in the days that followed spoke volumes, confirming the distance that had grown between us, a chasm widened by his allegiance to his mother over our partnership. Discussing the ordeal with my parents brought some solace. They advised that parting ways now, especially without children in the picture, might be the wisest course. Their support, coupled with the independence my job afforded me, fortified my resolve to move forward. When the weekend arrived, my father assisted me in collecting my belongings from the house I had shared with Lucas. Lucas remained out of sight, while Aurora chose to stay secluded in her room. Before leaving, I slid the divorce papers under Lucas's door with a simple request for his signature. His response, a muted acknowledgement and the signed papers, underscored the somber end to our marriage. Without a word to Aurora, I departed from a home that, in retrospect, harbored few joyful memories. At the city hall, I submitted the divorce papers, eager to close this chapter of my life swiftly. The simplicity of the legal procedure contrasted sharply with the complexity of the emotional ties being severed. In the aftermath, I remained with my parents, reflecting on the journey that led to this point and the path that lay ahead. The experience, though fraught with challenges, was a poignant reminder of the importance of mutual respect and support in marriage, a lesson I would carry forward. After settling back into my parents' home, I continued my work, appreciating the flexibility of my job that allowed me to work from anywhere. Despite considering the idea of renting a place for myself, my mother's concerns about safety and the comfort of being with family persuaded me to stay with them for the time being. My father shared similar worries, especially given the unpredictable nature of Lucas and his mother. Their apprehension made me feel more secure staying at home, so I decided to make it my base for a while. 3 months flew by, during which I gradually let go of the memories and ties to my ex-husband and his mother. Then, unexpectedly, my phone rang with an unknown number calling. Initially, I ignored it, assuming it to be a mistake or an irrelevant call. However, persistent ringing led me to finally pick up, only to hear Lucas's voice on the other end. His tone was frantic, questioning why I hadn't answered earlier. I was taken aback, reminding him that as we were no longer connected, I had no reason to respond to an unknown caller. Lucas hastily sought help with a problem concerning his smartphone's connectivity, which I found odd given our severed relationship. I suggested he contact his service provider, not hiding my intention to end the conversation. His next words caught my attention, revealing a deeper issue. It seemed Lucas was struggling financially, a continuation of the situation during our marriage, where his earnings, primarily from selling health products on commission, barely covered essentials. His admission implied that without my contributions, managing payments, especially for the new car, had become challenging. This revelation made me realize the extent of the financial imbalance during our marriage. I had been the one ensuring bills were paid by depositing money into our joint account, which, post-separation, only contained his minimal salary. The timing of our split and the start of the car payments seemed to have exacerbated his financial difficulties. Lucas's silence on the phone spoke volumes. It was clear that the responsibility of managing our finances, which had once been mine, was now a burden he had to bear alone. This exchange, though brief, shed light on the consequences of our separation and the realities we both faced in its aftermath. From that moment forward, I made it clear to Lucas that he would need to navigate his financial challenges without my assistance. Although tempted to add a parting shot, I refrained and simply ended the call. Lucas had likely never disclosed the true extent of his earnings to his mother, who remained oblivious to the fact that our household had primarily relied on my income throughout our marriage. Lucas's pride probably prevented him from admitting that I was the main breadwinner, a fact that might challenge traditional expectations. I was aware that utility services like electricity and water usually have a grace period before being disconnected, with cell phone services typically being the first to go in case of non-payment. This knowledge became relevant when, a few days later, an unexpected visit confirmed the consequences of financial neglect. One weekend morning, the peace was shattered by our doorbell. My father, normally a calm man, was visibly upset, confronting someone outside. My mother and I hurried to see what was happening, only to hear my ex-mother-in-law demanding to see me. Her appearance at our doorstep was a stark realization of my father's concerns about Lucas and his mother's unpredictability. Confronted by her, my ex-mother-in-law angrily accused me of causing their utilities to be cut off due to my cessation of contributions to the household account. The scene escalated until Lucas arrived, attempting to defuse the situation by reminding his mother that I was no longer responsible for their financial upkeep. In the heat of the moment, my ex-mother-in-law mistakenly claimed Lucas was the one earning a substantial salary. I seized the opportunity to set the record straight, revealing that it was, in fact, my salary that had supported us. Lucas, with a heavy heart, confirmed this truth to his mother, who seemed unable to fathom how I could earn so much from what she had dismissed as a part-time job. I clarified once more that my work was a legitimate full-time job, not the casual endeavor she had imagined. The revelation visibly shook her, prompting a bewildered inquiry about Lucas's actual earnings. This exchange not only illuminated the misconceptions she held about me and my profession, but also underscored the financial realities Lucas had concealed from his mother, highlighting the disparity in our contributions to the household and challenging her assumptions about our roles and resources. In a moment filled with tension and disbelief, my ex-mother-in-law, with a voice as fragile as a whisper, asked Lucas to reveal his earnings. His reply, barely audible, confirmed a meager net income of about $700. The revelation hung heavily in the air until she made a startling proposition. With a tone of desperation, she suggested I return to their lives as if our separation had been a mere jest. Her plea, reminiscent of someone grasping at straws, seemed almost pitiable. However, the absurdity of her suggestion left me speechless. Despite my clear refusal, asserting that our divorce was final and binding, she persisted, suggesting a remarriage to Lucas as if it were a simple matter of paperwork. My father, witnessing my astonishment, intervened decisively. His stern warning underscored the finality of our relationship with Lucas and his mother, and at his command, they retreated hastily, leaving behind a promise of police involvement should they trespass again. The audacity of their request left us all in shock, with my mother expressing disbelief and my father's anger palpable. His protective stance affirmed my decision to leave a situation that had become untenable. The aftermath of our encounter revealed the downward spiral Lucas had entered. Selling the family home and assets only to waste the proceeds on gambling highlighted the depth of his irresponsibility. Learning of his mother's subsequent health decline and her placement in a care facility added a somber note to their tale of misfortune. In contrast to that chapter of my life, my current situation is flourishing. My career is thriving, and I've embraced independence, finding solace in solitude. Recently, I've begun a new relationship with a colleague who respects and understands my past. His dedication to his work and responsible nature stand in stark contrast to Lucas's dependency and recklessness. While we haven't formalized our relationship, there's a mutual sense that our future together holds promise, a stark departure from the uncertainty and strife that once dominated my life.
I'm sorry, I have an amazing fiancé now. Are you feeling jealous or envious? It's puzzling how some people who only look down on others can become so unattractive. Her once cute face now seems distorted, and it's not just me. My sister and her husband also look down on my fiancé. My anger reached its peak, surpassing the limits of my patience. My name is Mia, and I'm 25 years old. I work at a printing company, although I don't operate large machines. I'm part of the design department, creating various flyers and catalogs. While the number of prints has decreased due to stylization advancements, the design work is still busy and rewarding. Fortunately, I have more customers requesting my specific designs. The flyer for the recent Christmas event was a big hit, and receiving such compliments genuinely makes me happy. This job feels like my life's purpose, and I thought I would remain single, dedicating my life to my work. However, things changed one day when my father was hospitalized for appendicitis. During a visit to see him, a young Dr. Samuel approached me. It turns out he's my current boyfriend, and he recently became my fiancé. Life has a way of bringing unexpected encounters, no matter how dedicated you are to your work. As soon as the topic of marriage came up, I found myself buying wedding magazines, and it seems I'm getting carried away. One day, while sitting in the living room and flipping through a magazine with a cup of tea, a hand suddenly reached out and snatched the magazine away. I exclaimed, "Hey, wait a minute. What's this? A wedding magazine? Why are you looking at something like this? It has nothing to do with you, Amelia." Suddenly, my younger sister Amelia snatched the magazine from me. "You getting married? Seriously? Look in the mirror first, will you? You should know your place. You don't even have a boyfriend, let alone getting married." On the other hand, I've never been without a boyfriend. My sister began bragging about her boyfriend. She has always been like this. Unlike me with my plain face, my sister has a very cute one. She's always been popular, and the people around her always indulge her. Except for our parents and me, everyone around her is a yes man. As a result, my sister started to think of herself as the center of the world, the arrogant sister I grew up with. "Stay away from me. Your face might rub off on me. No matter how much you study, that brain of yours won't catch up. Why don't you give up on your pointless efforts?" Oh, I got asked out again. It's so tough being popular. "I envy my sister, who doesn't get any attention at all," she would say, even if our parents scolded her severely. It was already too late. Her personality remained unchanged, and the verbal abuse towards me never stopped. Growing tired of my sister bragging about her boyfriend, I sighed and mustered up the courage to speak. "I do have a boyfriend. In fact, we're engaged. We're getting married soon, so I'm looking at wedding magazines." My sister's movements abruptly stopped at those words. After staring at me intently, she smirked with a sarcastic smile. Oh, really? So you managed to find a curious man. What's so great about you anyway? He likes my energetic and cheerful personality. That's a lie. You're probably just being treated like a maid. I'll continue working, and he understands that I can't be a perfect housewife, I explained. As I said that, my sister exaggeratedly acted surprised. Huh? You're getting married and still planning to work? How peculiar marrying a poor man. Her words struck a nerve, and she just couldn't stop looking down on me. Money is not an issue, he's a doctor, so there's no problem with income. I just want to continue working, I retorted. My sister fell silent immediately. I sighed with relief and returned to my room. Oh, a doctor, I see, she muttered with a meaningful tone. When marriage is on the table, the first thing to do is to meet with our parents. Samuel came to my house, and after greeting my parents, the relaxed atmosphere instantly changed the moment my sister appeared. Is that the person you're engaged to? Quite handsome, isn't he, Amelia? Weren't you out, Amelia? Of course, when my sister's fiancé is coming, I had to cancel my plans, my sister explained. Unbeknownst to her, I was relieved that she wasn't there by chance. It was because I had a bad feeling about it, and it had happened several times in the past. When I was still a student, my sister stole my boyfriend. As a working adult, I didn't have a boyfriend, but my sister kept making one after another. So such a thing didn't occur again. Although I felt uneasy about my sister coming back, she had grown up as well. I wanted to believe that she wouldn't do something like stealing my fiancé. My sister was oddly close to my fiancé. I couldn't help but notice a blush on Samuel, my fiancé's cheeks. My bad feeling had been brewing. Can we pretend that the engagement never happened? I've decided to break up with you and start dating Amelia. It hit the mark perfectly. I never thought that even as a working adult, I would have my boyfriend stolen by my sister. I'm sorry I took your fiancé, but it can't be helped, right? After all, I'm cuter and more charming, and Samuel's pursuit was so intense. My sister's words, far from an apology, and her condescending attitude next to Samuel, who was once my fiancé, made me snap. Oh, being cute is such a crime. The moment I saw that twisted smile on his face, any feelings I had for him vanished without a trace. All that remained was a sense of disgust. I'm glad I didn't marry someone like you, a man who easily moves on to another woman. Here, take Amelia as a parting gift. You're just a sore loser. Seriously, you're not attractive at all, even until the end. I'm not saying this out of spite, but I genuinely mean it. It seemed that the two of them, lost in their own delusions, didn't understand how I felt. It's a waste of time being involved with you two. Goodbye. You're just making excuses for losing. You're the waste of time here. I never want to see you again. Goodbye, I declared, and they left, looking down on me until the very end. After that, due to my enraged parents, they were banned from seeing our family, and I never met them again. However, I heard through rumors that they got married, but I don't really care anymore. 3 years had passed since I parted ways with my sister and her husband, and I turned 30 while diligently working as ever. In the midst of it, there was one customer who took a liking to my work and became a repeat client. His name was David. As we talked during work, for some reason, he asked me out for a meal. Then he asked me out on a date. On one of our dates, he asked me to be in a relationship with him. Honestly, I was really happy. David seemed very sincere, and I believed he wouldn't do the same as my previous boyfriend. But deep down, my sister had become quite a trauma for me. Maybe, just maybe, somewhere, it bothered me a little. So I decided to be honest and told him about my sister, about my former fiancé. I even showed him a picture of my sister and looked at his reaction. But even after seeing the picture of my sister, his expression didn't change at all. He casually glanced away from the photo and gave me a gentle smile. I know it might sound strange to say this, but I used to be quite popular. I've met many women who were cuter and more beautiful than your sister, but for some reason, none of them sparked my interest. I used to think that maybe I would remain single and unmarried for the rest of my life, but that wasn't the case. What do you mean? I inquired, curious. I believe that due to my line of work, I have an eye for people. No matter how beautiful someone is or how well dressed they are, they can't match their inner beauty. I realized that when I met you, Mia. What do you mean? I questioned, puzzled. I thought you were shining brightly. When we talk about work, you're vibrant and beautiful. I thought you were wonderful, not just during work, but when we're having a meal or going on a date. You always smile and enjoy our time together. I could tell that you genuinely enjoy our time together and that you're truly enjoying life. And I thought you were dazzlingly beautiful. What? Wait, this is so embarrassing, I stammered in my flustered state. David continued, Mia, you're beautiful. More beautiful and charming than anyone else. I've never met a more wonderful woman than you. Please consider being in a relationship with me, with marriage as a possibility. I truly, from the bottom of my heart— Stop. It's too embarrassing. I can't take it anymore, I interjected, my cheeks reddening. I tried to stop him, but David's words didn't cease. In the end, even after agreeing to date, he continued to shower me with such heartfelt words for a while. 1 year later, David and I got married, becoming a happily married couple. Our newlywed life was going well, and I felt like we had grown even closer than before we got married. We shared household chores whenever we could. Since my husband had been living alone for a long time, he might have been better at housework than me. His homemade meals when I was tired were incredibly delicious. On our days off, we often went out together. One day, on a day off when he said he wanted to look at furniture, something unexpected happened. It was like a reunion with a nightmare. While looking at the bedding section, I heard a voice from behind. Oh well, I thought I saw a plain-looking woman. It's you. I didn't need to see her face to know who it was. Even though it had been 4 years since we last met, there was no way I could forget her. Amelia, my sister, was standing there, and next to her was my former fiancé, Samuel. My sister's facial features seemed sharper than before. Was it because of her age, or had her personality come to the front? Standing beside her, Samuel also had a smirk, but it seemed like he had lost weight. What are you doing here, huh? Amelia asked. This place has a lot of imported goods and is expensive, you know. It's not a place for someone like you. I felt irritated by their rude remarks, but it was a waste of time to engage with them, so I maintained my silence. However, my attitude didn't sit well with them as the voices of my sister and her husband grew louder. I hate it. Our precious high-end stores are ruined. Why would such poor people come here? They can't afford anything anyway. That's right. Poor people, go home. Other customers and store employees glanced at us, wondering what was going on. Fed up, I took my husband's hand and tried to leave, but he didn't move. Finally realizing my husband's presence, my sister and her husband looked at him. Oh, what are you to her? My sister's eyes widened. Mia's husband? My sister continued. Huh? You're marrying this plain girl? Seriously, you're brave. Did you need a housemate or something? That's hilarious. I also do housework. It's only natural since we both work. I'm living comfortably as a full-time housewife. More than half of my week is spent eating out. I have money, so I rely on housekeeping services. Sorry for being part of the winning team. My sister spoke with a sarcastic tone, stretching her words, which made me angry. I was getting increasingly frustrated. My sister continued to grin, saying, Sorry I stole your wonderful fiancé. Thanks to that, you'll have a poor life even after marriage, right? And to top it off, you're marrying such a plain guy. You one are a perfect match, both plain and unremarkable. Aren't you envious of my happiness? Jealous, aren't you? Haha, marrying a man who can't support his wife is just like you. You'll struggle for the rest of your life, losers. I had reached my limit. I could bear it when they spoke ill of me. But to speak ill of my husband as well was something I couldn't tolerate. Listen, that's enough. I finally spoke up. Mia, it's fine. At that moment, when I thought about yelling, my husband stepped forward in front of me saying, Nice to meet you. I'm David, the one who married your sister. My sister retorted, What a Emily name. Well, I understand. Here's my business card, Samuel said, taking the offered card. My husband glanced at my sister-in-law. You say really mean things to Mia, don't you? He challenged. Because they're true, my sister-in-law replied. I'm just abiding by the law that says I can call an ugly woman ugly. That's my law. My husband calmly responded, Such a law doesn't exist. And for me, you're much uglier than you think. My sister-in-law, taken aback, asked, What? Let's say it's the ugliness of your character. You seem to have confidence in your appearance, but you don't realize that your twisted personality, which can only look down on others, is reflected on the outside. While my husband's tone was polite, his words were quite harsh. My sister-in-law's face quickly turned bright red. Don't mess with me, how am I ugly? My husband retorted, Everything about you is. In the first place, beautiful people don't envy their sisters and steal their fiancés. My sister-in-law defended herself, saying, What? When did I envy my sister? People aspire to get close to and surpass their admired figures. Isn't Mia such a figure for you? My husband's words took me by surprise, and my sister's reaction unsettled me. I had never considered it that way before. My sister had always looked down on me. However, seeing her unsettled, I started to wonder if there was a possibility. I realized that if it's someone who doesn't matter, someone you don't care about, you can just ignore them. Even if Mia brings any kind of partner, you shouldn't have thought of taking them away. After all, they are not someone you found yourself taking someone else's position stems from jealousy towards something you can't obtain, no matter how hard you try. I'm saying I'm not jealous. By taking something away, you want to have the confidence that you are superior to the other person, right? In other words, you lack confidence. Confident people can live proudly without doing such things, my husband remarked. That's not true, my sister protested, her voice gradually losing strength. Hey, this name! Breaking the momentary silence, Samuel shouted loudly, his face pale. My sister looked at the business card and her husband's face, then shook her shoulder. What is it now? I asked. I felt like I recognized this name, so I looked it up, my sister explained. I looked it up and... Huh? David Charles? So what? I inquired. The hospital where I work, my sister continued. It's Charles Medical Corporation. The chairman and director, Dr. Charles, he's their son. Huh? I was taken aback. It's a common surname, so it must be someone else, right? I've seen him come to the hospital a few times, together with the chairman. I saw them from a distance, so I didn't remember well. But when I thought I had seen him somewhere... He's supposed to be a doctor, right? Samuel asked. Wait, the company name on that business card? I started. The company name, huh? My husband chimed in. It doesn't mean that a doctor's son has to become a doctor, and this company is a super famous pharmaceutical company. I think the previous generation retired and the grandson took over. Hello, I'm that grandson, my husband revealed. Amelia and Samuel panicked, and my husband calmly explained. I met Mia through the work I was doing until I took over my grandfather's job. I've heard about you, but it's beyond imagination how cruel you are. Well, Amelia stammered. My husband shifted his gaze from my speechless sister to Samuel. A job of helping people requires empathy, but instead of showing empathy, you look down on and ridicule others. Who would want to be treated by a doctor like that? My husband scolded, his anger apparent. Well, it's just a misunderstanding, Samuel tried to explain with a pale face. However, in the next moment, my husband's eyes widened with anger. No need for excuses. I'll let my father know about you. Just wait for the consequences. No, please! Samuel slumped in disappointment while my sister remained stunned. We turned our backs to the two of them and left, likely never to see them again. With that thought in my heart, I continued walking without looking back. Afterward, my sister's husband, Samuel, didn't get fired, but he faced a significant pay cut and was removed from responsible tasks. He had displayed an arrogant attitude toward others and had a cold demeanor with patients, which led to cold stares from everyone around him. His situation became precarious, and eventually, he quit his job, unable to find another due to the rumors about his behavior. As for my sister, it was revealed that she had always been reckless with money, and despite her high salary, her life was challenging. Samuel's pay cut prompted her to quickly decide on a divorce. However, things don't always go as planned. Nobody wanted to be with her, and my husband mentioned that she might have truly admired me. In the end, my sister, rejected even by her parents when she sought their help, faced the consequences of her actions and disappeared into the nightlife. Her fate after that remained a mystery, and I was sure I wouldn't hear her name again in the future. On the other hand, freed from the curse of my sister and her husband, I enjoyed peaceful and fulfilling days. I had a calm married life and a job that I was passionate about, and soon we would become a family of 3. Gazing at the computer monitor, I gently rubbed my growing belly.
The first time I laid eyes on Henry was at a college seminar. We were both there to earn extra credits, even though our academic paths differed significantly. He was a business major, while I was immersed in literature. The moment he raised his hand to pose a challenging question to the professor, I felt an immediate attraction. After class, we found ourselves at the same coffee shop, and it felt as though the universe conspired to bring us together. Our conversations spanned a wide range of topics, from college hobbies to childhood memories. Henry casually mentioned his strict background as he took a sip from his cup. My parents are deeply religious. I responded with a nonchalant shrug. So, my parents are free thinkers. They've always encouraged me to question everything. Henry chuckled. Sounds like we're from different planets. Despite these apparent differences, an undeniable chemistry blossomed between us. We began to spend more time together, frequently studying in each other's company and exploring the city during weekends. About a year into our relationship, we made the practical decision to move in together. It made sense given that our apartments were far from the university and we had become inseparable by then. However, when Henry broke the news to his parents, it wasn't well received. During a dinner at their house, Mrs. William, Henry's mother, was the first to voice her concerns. "Living together before marriage, Henry? You know how we feel about that," she remarked, her disapproval evident. Henry, shifting uncomfortably in his seat, replied, "Mum, times have changed. It's not as big of a deal these days." Mr. William joined in, adding, "Well, in our house it still is. You're living in sin." Feeling the weight of their disapproving glances, I tried to alleviate the tension. "We respect your beliefs, but this is our decision. We're adults." Mrs. Williams sighed. "It's just not the way we raised you." Henry reached for my hand and said, "Lizzie and I love each other. We want to start our life together, and I hope you can support that." The evening concluded on a somber note, but Henry and I remained resolute in our decision. We found a cozy apartment near the campus and moved in a few days later, determined to build our future together. As weeks turned into months, our bond grew stronger. However, the strain with Henry's parents always lingered in the background, like an old radio playing a sad tune. One evening, as we were settling into our new life, there was a knock on the door. It was Mrs. William, holding a pie. "I thought I'd come by and see how you two are doing," she said, looking around with a critical eye. "We're doing great, Mrs. William," I replied, trying to be cordial. She sat down, placing the pie on the table. "This is all temporary, right? You'll get married soon?" Henry cleared his throat. "We haven't decided that yet, Mum." As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the constant pressure from Henry's parents started to weigh on us. Our once carefree dates and movie nights began to have a shadow, the looming expectation of marriage. One evening, while we were making dinner together in our tiny kitchen, Henry broached the subject. "Ella, have you ever thought about, having a wedding?" I looked up from chopping the vegetables, surprised. "Like for us? Are you proposing?" He smiled awkwardly, rubbing the back of his neck. "Not exactly. I mean, yes, I want to marry you someday, but right now it's more about my parents. Maybe if we had a ceremony, they'd back off." I sighed. "So, you're saying a wedding without the legal paperwork?" He nodded. "Just a thought. We can invite friends, make it a fun day. My parents get their wedding and we get some peace." It wasn't the romantic proposal I'd imagined, but I understood his reasoning. "All right," I said slowly, "but on one condition. We do it our way. No big church wedding, just something small and intimate." Henry grinned, relief evident on his face. "Deal." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of preparations. We chose a beautiful outdoor venue, invited our close friends and family, and planned a simple but heartfelt ceremony. When we broke the news to his parents, their reaction was surprisingly subdued. "An outdoor wedding?" Mrs. William asked, raising an eyebrow. "Well, it's a start. It's unconventional, but if it means you two are taking the next step, I suppose we can support it," Mr. William added. "As long as you're committed to each other, that's what matters." The day of the wedding was sunny and bright. I wore a simple white dress, and Henry looked dashing in his suit. Our friends cheered, and even Henry's parents seemed genuinely happy. During the reception, Mrs. William pulled me aside. "Ella, I want to apologise," she began, her voice soft. "I know we've been hard on you two, but seeing you together today, I realised that love is what truly matters." I smiled, touched by her words. "Thank you, Mrs. William. That means a lot." The day ended on a high note, with everyone dancing and celebrating our love. It felt like we had finally won Henry's parents over, and I hoped this would be a fresh start for us. But as days passed, their daily visits began. They'd drop by unannounced, often with unsolicited advice or thinly veiled criticisms. It was as if the wedding had given them a free pass to interfere in our lives. One evening, as Henry and I were unwinding after a long day, there was a knock at the door. Opening it, I found Mrs. William holding a casserole dish. "Just thought I'd drop off some dinner," she said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Thanks," I replied, taking the dish. "But you know you don't have to do this." She waved a hand dismissively. "It's no trouble. I just thought since you're always so busy you might not have time to cook." I forced a smile, sensing the underlying judgment. "We manage, but thanks anyway." As the door closed, I sighed deeply. Henry wrapped an arm around me and whispered, "It'll be okay." It started with the subtle comments, the not-so-innocent questions. "Why's the house so messy? Have you considered cooking something more nutritious?" Mrs. William would ask, her tone dripping with faux concern. One day, I came home from work exhausted to find her in our living room, reorganizing our bookshelves. "Mrs. William, what are you doing?" I asked, taken aback. She looked up as if it was the most natural thing in the world. "Just thought I'd help tidy up a bit. These shelves looked so cluttered," she replied. Henry entered from the kitchen, holding 2 cups of tea. "Mum's just helping out, Ella," he said, trying to play mediator. I took a deep breath, my patience waning. "This is our home, Henry. We didn't ask for help." Mrs. William pursed her lips, her eyes watering. "I'm just trying to be helpful. After all, now we're family." Days like these became more frequent. They'd pop by without notice, giving advice we never asked for, criticizing decisions we'd made together as a couple. It was clear they no longer saw boundaries. One evening, after a particularly trying visit from his parents, Henry and I sat down for a heart-to-heart. "Henry, this has to stop," I began, my voice trembling with frustration. "I can't live like this, feeling like I'm constantly being judged in my own home." He ran his fingers through his hair, looking equally stressed. "I know, Ella. It's just they're my parents. I don't know how to tell them to back off without hurting their feelings." I replied, "But what about our feelings, our peace of mind? We can't keep sacrificing that for them." A week later, we invited them over for dinner, deciding to address the issue head-on. The evening started off pleasantly enough. We chatted about work, friends, and the latest news. But as the main course was served, I took a deep breath and dove in. "Mrs. William, Mr. William, we invited you over because there's something we need to discuss," I began, trying to keep my voice steady. Mr. William looked up, his fork pausing mid-air. "What's the matter?" I exchanged a glance with Henry, who nodded in encouragement. "It's about the frequent visits and, well, the constant input on our lives." Mrs. William looked taken aback. "We're just trying to help," Henry took over. "Mum, Dad, we appreciate that you care, but it's becoming overwhelming. We need some space to live our lives, make our mistakes, and grow together." Tears formed in Mrs. William's eyes. "After all we've done for you, this is how you repay us," Mr. William added, his voice stern. "We're just looking out for you. It seems Ella here doesn't appreciate family." I felt a pang of guilt, but stood my ground. It's not about appreciation, it's about respect, respecting our boundaries and our choices. The room grew silent, the tension palpable. Mrs. William dabbed at her eyes with a napkin, her shoulders shaking. "We just wanted to be part of your lives. I never thought it had come to this." Henry looked torn, his loyalty divided, but he held firm. "Mum, we love you, but this is our life. We need you to understand." The evening ended with Mrs. William in tears, Mr. William looking disappointed, and an unspoken agreement that things had to change. As they left, I felt a mix of relief and dread, wondering what the future held for our relationships. Days after the confrontation, the house felt unusually quiet. The constant visits had stopped, but the silence was both a relief and a curse. Every time the doorbell rang or there was a knock, my heart would race, expecting it to be Henry's parents, but it never was. One evening, as Henry and I sat on our couch, he broached the topic. "Ella, do you think we were too harsh? I mean, They're my parents. Maybe we overreacted. I took his hand, feeling its warmth. Henry, it's not about being harsh. It's about setting boundaries. We did what we had to do. He sighed deeply. I know. It's just hard. I never imagined being in this situation with them. As days turned into weeks, we began to feel the weight of our decision. There were no more surprise visits, but there were also no calls or messages. It was as if we had cut ties completely. During this period, I often found solace in browsing property listings online. One day, as I was scrolling through listings of a beautiful house in a neighbouring town, it caught my eye. This house had a large garden, a spacious living area, and, most importantly, it was far away from our current life. Henry, come look at this, I called out. He joined me, peering at the screen. Wow, it's beautiful, but why are you looking at houses? I hesitated, choosing my words carefully. I was thinking maybe it's time for a fresh start somewhere new, where we can create our own memories away from all this drama. He looked surprised. You mean move? Leave everything behind? I nodded. It's drastic, I know, but maybe it's what we need. We discussed it at length, weighing the pros and cons. The idea of starting anew was enticing but also terrifying. Yet, the more we talked, the more it felt right. A few weeks later, we visited the house in person. It was even more beautiful in reality, and the neighbourhood seemed perfect. After much consideration, I decided to use the money I had inherited from my grandmother to buy it. The day we signed the papers, I felt a mix of emotions. Excitement for the new beginning, but also sadness for what we were leaving behind. The move went smoothly, and soon we were settling into our new home. It felt like a dream. The peace and quiet were just what we needed. One evening, as we were enjoying a quiet dinner in our new dining room, Henry said, Ella, I think this was the best decision we ever made. I smiled, feeling content. I think so too. The first few months in our new home were like a dream. The mornings were quiet, filled with the chirping of birds, and the evenings brought a calm, tranquil energy. Henry and I fell into a comfortable routine, enjoying the privacy and peace that our new surroundings provided. The past seemed like a distant memory, and the attention that once surrounded our lives had all but disappeared, until one fateful day. I was in the kitchen preparing dinner when the doorbell rang. Henry went to answer it. I heard murmurs, and then a familiar voice that made my heart sink. Mrs. William. I walked to the entrance, my face revealing my shock. There they were, Mrs. and Mr. William, suitcases in tow, standing at our doorstep. Mom, Dad, what are you doing here? Henry asked, his voice filled with surprise. Mrs. Williams smiled a bit too sweetly. We missed you, dear, and we thought, why not pay a visit? I tried to keep my composure. It's unexpected, Mr. William chimed in. We just wanted to see where our son is living now. Is that so wrong? Henry seemed torn. Of course not, but a heads up would have been nice. Mrs. William looked around, her eyes scanning our home. Oh, what a lovely place you have here. Much nicer than the old one. I bristled but said nothing. What was supposed to be a visit turned into a stay. One night became 2, then 3, and they began to settle in, making themselves comfortable much like they had in our previous home. One evening after dinner, I pulled Henry aside. Henry, we can't go down this road again. We moved to escape this. He sighed. I know, Ella, but they're my parents. I can't just throw them out. I looked at him with frustration. Then what? Let them take over our lives again? Mrs. William, who seemed to have overheard our conversation, walked over, her eyes welling up with tears. Is that how you feel, Henry, that we're a burden? Henry looked helplessly at me, then back at his mother. Mum, it's not like that. We just wish you had told us you were coming. She sniffled. We just wanted to be close to our son, but it seems we're not welcome here either. I had a sinking feeling when I heard Henry's parents mention they'd made a decision about their living situation. The two of us had recently been discussing the matter privately, hoping to find a delicate way to address the issue. Now it seemed the matter was going to be thrust into the open. Mr. William began, "We have some news." Henry shifted in his seat, already sensing what was coming. "Go on," he prompted. Mrs. William, trying to sound cheerful, said, "We've sold our house. We realise there's no need for it when we have such a lovely family home here with you two." My eyes widened in shock. "You did what?" "We wanted to be closer to you both," Mr. William explained, looking earnest. Mrs. William looked hurt. "We are family. Why wouldn't you want us here?" I took a deep breath and said what I'd wanted to say for a long time. "This house, it's mine. It's not owned jointly by Henry and me. It's in my name only." I retrieved a file from the study, showing them the ownership documents. Mrs. William looked at the papers and then back at me, clearly stunned. "But you're married. What's yours is Henry's and vice versa." I smiled triumphantly. "That's where you're mistaken. We held a wedding ceremony, yes, but Henry and I never legally married. We never signed any official documents, so technically you're not my in-laws." The weight of my words seemed to hang in the air. Mrs. William's face turned a shade paler, her eyes widening in disbelief. Mr. William looked from me to Henry, seeking some form of denial. Henry took my hand, signalling his support. "It's true, Mum and Dad. We thought you'd be more accepting if we had a ceremony, but we never felt the need to get the state involved in our relationship." Mrs. William began to sob. "So you deceived us, and now you're throwing us out." The room was heavy with tension after the bombshells were dropped. Henry's parents were clearly taken aback, but it wasn't long before the shock turned into outrage. "So you tricked everyone with a sham wedding, and you think that makes everything all right?" Mrs. William's voice had a hint of venom. Henry sighed. "It wasn't about tricking anyone. It was about the way we wanted to live our lives. The ceremony was for us and those who wanted to celebrate our love." Mrs. William's face turned a shade redder. "You dare defy the sanctity of marriage, live together in sin, and then mock us with a fake wedding. I've had enough," Mr. William declared, standing up. "Suddenly you, young lady, are nothing but a sinner and a witch, trying to pull my son away from his family and his values." I was taken aback by the fierceness of their reaction, but I wouldn't let them intimidate me. "I have not taken Henry from anyone. He's made his own choices, and it's high time you respect them." Mrs. William's eyes were filled with tears, but her voice was stern. "Henry, come home with us. Leave this woman. She's done nothing but pull you into her web of deceit." Henry, ever the calm in the storm, replied, "Mum, Dad, I love you both, but my place is here with her. She's been nothing but kind and understanding, even when you both haven't been. You can't just demand I leave her." "You're choosing her over us." Mr. William's voice was a mix of anger and disbelief. "I'm choosing to live my life on my terms," Henry asserted. The room went silent for what felt like an eternity. The air was thick, every breath heavy. Mrs. William's face was a mask of hurt and betrayal. "Very well," she said, her voice cold. "But remember this. You're turning your back on your family, on your faith, all for her." "I'm not turning my back on anyone," Henry said. "I just wish you'd see that." Mrs. William's eyes were hard, her voice bitter. "Let him go," she said to her husband, not giving either of us another glance. And with that, they left, leaving behind a wake of hurt, confusion, and uncertainty. I looked at Henry, his face a mirror of my own feelings. We both knew that things had changed irrevocably, and there was no going back. A few days after the confrontation, as I was heading back from work, my neighbour, Mrs. Carlson, called out to me. She was an older lady known for her daily walks and her uncanny ability to know everyone's business. "Did you hear about the William family not selling their house?" she asked with a knowing look. I paused, taken aback. "What do you mean?" She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "They never put their house on the market." I heard from Isabella, who heard from Janice, an employee at the town's real estate office, that there's no record of the William property being up for sale. A knot formed in my stomach. Were they lying to us all this time? When I got home, I shared the information with Henry, and he looked shocked. I can't believe they'd lie to us. What were they trying to achieve? We both knew the answer. They wanted to manipulate the situation to their advantage. The realization was a hard pill to swallow. All this time, while we tried to understand and accommodate them, they had been playing a game. Henry sighed deeply, rubbing his temples. This changes things. It's one thing to have disagreements, but outright deception, that's something else entirely. We can't keep letting them pull us into their manipulative games, I said firmly. We need strong boundaries, Henry nodded. You're right. We can't continue like this. It's unhealthy for us and for our relationship. The next day, he went over to his parents' house. He needed to confront them and get some answers. When he returned, his face was a mix of anger and sadness. They admitted it, he began, his voice heavy. They thought that if they moved in with us, we'd be a proper family again. They felt threatened by our independence. We sat down, discussing our next steps. It was clear that for our own sanity and the health of our relationship, we needed distance from them. We need a break, Henry declared. Some time away from all this drama and manipulation. I agreed. It's the best decision for us right now. That evening, we sent a message to his parents, informing them of our decision. The reply was filled with anger and accusations, but we remained firm. We needed this for ourselves and for our future. The next few weeks were quiet, and we focused on each other, rebuilding the trust and closeness that had been strained over the past months. One evening, as we sat on our porch, looking at the stars, Henry turned to me and whispered, "Thank you for standing by me, for fighting for us." I smiled, squeezing his hand. Always. The journey had been long and fraught with challenges, but it was a poignant reminder of the importance of boundaries, honesty, and mutual respect in any relationship. As the night deepened, we looked toward the future, hoping for peace and understanding.